Hello, beautiful people. I am Kevin Rose. I am here today with you, sweating profusely. It is the first day of fall, September 21st. And in Central Florida, the swamp of Florida, fall does not exist, other than the sweat falling from my head. Thank you for tuning in. I want to start by saying thank you so much for all your contributions, financial prayers, well wishes. I can't tell you how full of joy my heart is to know that there's so many caring people. It's an incredible feeling, and asking for help has never been my forte. But I don't have a choice. I made a covenant with God that I would walk this road and I would do everything He said, moment by moment. And He only gives me one step at a time. He won't tell me anything in the future. He says, nope, do this, nope, do that. Coming up soon, I have a project called Upside Down Project, which is going to come out soon. I was told that's my next project. But first, I have to film this particular video. The reason I'm doing this, though, is because I have been a body worker, massage therapist, manual therapist for 27 years. So, no, that doesn't make me a doctor. And no, none of the information I'm giving you is medical advice. What I'm going to give you is my opinion. From being in the hospital, seeing what I saw with the eyes that I see them with, because I pay attention and I observe, because I have clients that come in that are dealing with this stuff every day. And so I thought, you know what, then let's use this and see if it can help someone in the future, because somebody else is going to go through this, right? People get sick. And we have surrendered our healing capabilities to other people for 100 years. If I get sick, I go to the doctor. I don't even check in with myself first. And it's interesting because when I ask people when they go to the doctor, I say, say they've got a hurt back. I'll say, well, did they palpate your back? Did they feel your back to see what was going on? No, they just gave me this or that, or this drug or that drug. So today I want to focus on the pharmaceutical part that has been really interesting to me, and how those pharmaceuticals are administered. Because the first thing I do when I get a pharmaceutical, because I haven't up until this point taken pharmaceutical drugs. I had in 2008, I had viral meningitis where I was in the hospital, and even that, they didn't really treat anything but the pain with any kind of drug, because there was nothing to treat it with. But with this round of cancer, of the adenocarcinoma, I can never get that name right, there's been lots of drugs. And, well, I say lots of drugs. For me, lots of drugs. There's been 4. When they gave me the shot immediately of the steroid, it shrank the swelling around my brain, which helped me function so much better. I had lost gross motor function, basically, because I have 2 big tumors underneath my cerebellum. And so it made me feel like I was 102 years old. I couldn't walk, couldn't balance. But as soon as I got that shot, everything changed. So I've been on this maintenance program, and it's been interesting to say the least, or the most, either one. I've had some interactions with the hospital, with the doctors, with different people in the hospitals, dealing with these prescriptions and trying to get things filled. And there's been some interesting happenings that I wanted to share with you, because if you don't know, and you're scared, and you're sick, and you have no knowledge of this, in my opinion, that actually creates more disease, right? Because if you're scared, your central nervous system is on fire, and you can't heal. You can't ever go into what is the parasympathetic system download, the rest and digest. You can never go there, because your parasympathetic helps you rest and digest, that part of your central nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system deals with stress, and it's the fight, flight, or freeze response. It's all of that. And if that's jacked up to the highest extent, you never go into that rest and digest. And if you never go into rest and digest, you can never heal. Your body just can't do it. Energy is required to operate. And so if your energy is going into being jacked up, fight, flight, or freezer all the time, it can't shift into the rest and digest, so you cannot heal. And so that's why I'm making these videos. In my covenant with God, I said, okay, he told me, this is what I want you to do. I want you to tell people what you're experiencing, and especially here lately with the pharmaceuticals. So, but I wanted to talk today about the drugs that I'm on. One is called, where'd it go? It's called dexamethasone. Now this, Vanna White, is a 4 milligram tablet that I take twice daily. And what this does is it helps to keep the shrinking in the brain tissue down so that I can actually operate. So it's a good thing, right? It's a paradox because I don't want to take it, but if I don't, then I walk like a 102-year-old man and my brain swells, and that's not fun. But I pulled these drugs up on the Wikipedia site because that's usually the first thing I do. If somebody gives me something, I pull it up and I say, okay, well, what does this do? And then I begin asking the question, how do these mix? Like, what happens? What's the chemical mix that happens when you put all these things together? And, to be quite honest with you, nobody really tells you. They say, just take this, and you go, oh, okay, I'll take that. Well, the dexamethasone, it says it's a glucocorticoid medication used to treat rheumatic problems, a number of skin diseases, skin allergies, asthma, chronic obstructive lung disease, croup, and brain swelling, eye pain following eye surgery, superior vena cava syndrome, complication of some forms of cancer, and along with antibiotics in tuberculosis. So basically, this is used to keep the swelling down in my brain. All right, so it's a good thing. And it's something I need for sure. But in addition to that, I have to take, it's called levetiracetam. Sold under the brand name Keppra, among other things, is a medication used to treat epilepsy. So this is an anti-seizure med. It's used for partial onset myoclonic or tonic-clonic seizures and is taken either by mouth as an immediate or extended release formulation by injection into vein. Common side effects of this drug include sleepiness, dizziness, feeling tired, and aggression. Severe side effects may include psychosis, suicide, allergic reactions such as Stevens-Johnson syndrome or anaphylaxis. It is unclear if levetiracetam is safe for using during pregnancy and breastfeeding. No problem there. So I have to take this to counter the dexamethasone because the dexamethasone could cause me to have seizures, and so I have to take this. Now, when they first gave me this in the hospital, this anti-seizure med, they had me on 850 milligrams twice a day. And when they first started giving it to me, I felt like it was literally killing me. Like when everything was intravenous when I first started. By the way, this is my lovely butterfly, beautiful butterfly wife's art behind me. She does such a beautiful job. When they first shot me up with this, I swear I thought I was dying. And Robin looked at me and she said, your life force is literally draining out of you. And I was like, I know, it's crazy. So after doing that for 2 days, twice a day, I was like, okay, this is enough. So I said to my hospitalist, the guy that prescribed this, my doctor, I said, look, this stuff is killing me. Can you reduce the dosage? Because I need to go to the minimum dosage and then go up. And he didn't argue. He said, sure, we'll give it a try. But the thing about that is that if I had not said anything, if I had not brought that up, if I had not been aware of how this was affecting my body, what would that have done over time? And so that's why I'm presenting this, is I want people to start really paying attention to how they're reacting to their medications. Don't just take the doctor's word for it, because even though they're doctors, they're working on statistical data. They're not working on you individually. They're working on what works overall. So ask questions. And if someone won't reduce the dosage, find someone that will. This is your body. This is your vessel to take care of. God gave you this so that you could walk around on this planet and do what you're supposed to do. So take it into your own hands to really stand up for yourself for this stuff. That was a big one, and it shifted everything. Now, the next thing was, when I'm taking all these anti-seizure and these steroids, it kept me up at night. Like, I was sleeping for 2 weeks. I was sleeping 3.5 hours a night. 3.5 hours a night. Now, it was a good thing in a way, because I would wake up clear. It was when I first really made that covenant with God. I was laying face down praying every morning, starting out the morning, and then I would spend the next hours alone outside just writing. I was getting all these downloads, all this information about God, about life, about why we're here, about what's next, about how sad God is right now that we're so divided, and he is fatigued of it, and he's ready to be done with it. And so I don't think we're far away from being done with it, whatever that means. He is a benevolent God, but just like anything else, when you've had enough, I guess. So anyway, for 2 weeks, I'm up straight. And it got to the point where I called my doctor and I said, look, I can't go any more days not sleeping. Or sleeping 3.5 hours a night. This is insane. Can't you prescribe me something? He said, oh, sure. I was like, well, wouldn't that been something that a doctor would have told you right away, that these drugs may not let you sleep, and so if you need something, let me know? Now, I'm not using any of the doctor's names. I'm not using hospital names, anything like that, because I'm not blaming them. They're doing their job. They're doing what they're taught to do. The fact that I didn't ask was my fault, right? I take responsibility for that. And I didn't ask because at the time I was having so much fun downloading all this information that it didn't even occur to me that, yeah, you do need sleep to heal. So he finally prescribed some, and he started me out on this lorazepam. He started it out. He said, I'm going to give you a 0.5 milligram dosage. And if that doesn't work, the next night, take 2 of those and see where you go. So this doctor in particular was really good, because he allowed me to kind of titrate my own dosage in regards to how it affected me. Excuse me. So I did the first night. I took one. It did nothing. I slept 3.5 hours. The second night I took the second one. I took 2, and that gave me 2 hours more sleep. So the second night I slept like 5.5 hours, which was phenomenal. And then the third night I was like, okay, well, I'm going to split one of these in half and see what it does. So I ended up taking 1.25 milligrams to go to sleep. Well, I slept like 6.5, 7 hours, so it was perfect. And it was awesome. I had this medication on my counter in my bathroom, and underneath the counter is one of the cat litter boxes. Fantastic. And I had the bottle open, and I was doing something, and I turned around. This was last Friday. And I turned around and I hit the bottle, and almost every one of those pills went right into the cat litter. There was probably 6 left, maybe. But the rest of them went into the cat litter. So had to clean the cat litter box out, right? But I picked up the rest of the pills, put them back in the bottle. Well, so I called. This was Friday morning. I called the number that I called to get whatever I need refilled. But what happens when I call into the hospital, you get in this loop, and I'm sure many of you have been there if you've been in the allopathic system. You get in this loop where you can't get answers to anything. And everybody that you talk to says, well, you need your primary care physician to visit. And it's like, no, that my doctor's name is on that bottle. That's who I need to talk to. So I called and left a message and never heard anything back on Friday. I was still okay because I had some pills left to be able to sleep. And then Saturday, no one called. Sunday, no one called. I called again, kept getting recorded messages. Well, Monday, I started getting a little, I wouldn't say panicky, but I was like, man, if I don't have those and I can't sleep, I really don't want to go back to that habit of not sleeping. So I called on Monday, and I kept getting this recorded message all day long. And finally, at about 3:30, I got somebody on the phone, and I said, look, I knocked over and I had told the woman on Friday that I had knocked them over and I needed more pills. And I told this woman on Monday, who was a nurse, I said, I knocked over these sleeping pills. I need a replacement prescription. Can you please call a doctor and have them order that? And she said, yes, and told me, and she said, I see that you left 3 or 4 messages. Has no one called you back this week? And I said, no one has called me back. And you could tell she was frustrated. And so she said, well, I'll call the doctor. I said, I'll tell you what, why don't you have the doctor call me personally? And I can speak to him, and then I can speak clarity into the situation, and you're not relaying messages. That way I know I have a contact. So she said, okay, I'll call. Well, a doctor didn't call me back. A fellow called me back, who is I guess a doctor in training. And I told him the situation. I said, listen, I need to get a prescription for this, because if I don't have these, then I can't sleep, and it turns my whole day upside down without sleep, obviously. And he said, oh, okay, well, great. I can, I'll call one of the doctors. I'll have them prescribe it, and you can go pick it up. So I said, okay, great. So this was at about 6:30 in the evening on Monday. And he calls me back about 20 minutes later. He said, okay, I actually spoke to 2 different doctors, and both of them said that they would call a prescription. I said, okay, great. Just give me one prescription. One will do. And he said, well, they'll confirm it. I said, okay. So I waited about 30 minutes. I called up my pharmacy, and they said, no, we don't have anything for you. And I said, what do you mean? They called it in. No, we don't have anything for you. Okay. So I call this doctor back, and I can't get a hold of him, this fellow. So there was answering. Now it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that. And this nurse on call calls me back. And she says, they're not going to give you a new prescription tonight. And I said, well, why not? I've been calling for 4 days and leaving messages. And she said, well, because it is a controlled substance, and they won't fill a controlled substance after 7:30 p.m. This is the sleeping pill. This is the lorazepam. And I said, okay. I said, but I have pain pills that I'm not taking because I don't want to load up on opioids. So I'm trying to keep my system relatively clean, but I need these to sleep. What can I do? And she said, well, I can guarantee you you won't get any tonight. And I said, okay, well, tell me what you would have done if you were the doctor. She said, what I would have done would have been prescribe a whole nother drug, and then that way you're not trying to refill this same drug, because what happens is the FDA regulates these drugs. If you fill it like I did on I'm going to use the date September 9th. If you fill that drug on September 9th, it has to be so many days until you can refill that drug, because it's a controlled substance. So no matter whether you drop them down the drain, drop them in the cat litter box, they fall on the floor, they will not refill that drug. So she said what I would have done was prescribed a whole different drug, and then they would have filled it and you would have had it. And I thought, that is amazing. Because here, two different doctors, two separate doctors, sent prescriptions over for this drug and didn't know that they wouldn't be filled. Or did they? But if two different doctors who are treating us don't know the rules of the FDA and that it has to be this and this, what else don't they know? What else are they not doing? What are they lacking in the healthcare? And again, I'm not placing blame, I'm just asking questions. Because if somebody doesn't know the FDA laws, or at least familiar, they don't have to know the laws, but have to be familiar with them, how can they actually treat anything, if you don't know the rules? So she said, I guarantee you're not going to get anything tonight. I was like, okay. Well, it just so happened that I had just enough left for the night. Well, the next day, the doctor, the head guy that I've been dealing with, he's the head guy at the hospital, the oncology department where I was. He had his assistant call me, who's great, nurse, and she said, okay, we'll get it taken care of. It's no problem. He actually upped the dosage. So technically when you up the dosage, you actually don't change the medication, but you change the type of medication so that it can be filled, because you're changing dosages, even though it's the same medication. I hope you're following this. I wasn't closely until I did. And, I had told him, I said the pain pills that I'm taking aren't really working anymore because I have this tumor in my left hip. And that's really the only place I have pain is in my left hip. And it kind of pulls on my femur, so it makes it difficult to walk. So I said, is it possible to up that dosage as well, so that I don't have to keep loading up trying to chase the pain, and I can just have something that's more long lasting? And she said yes, so I'll call that in as well. So she did, and called it in. On Tuesday, I went to a ball game with a friend of mine and asked Robin to pick up my prescription. So I get a phone call. I didn't get the call, but a message from Robin, and she is pissed because she goes into the pharmacy and they wouldn't give her the drugs because it didn't say in the comments that I had knocked them into the cat litter box. It wasn't specified that I had knocked them over and I needed a refill. Excuse me. So they weren't going to write the prescription. Well, I don't know if you people know my wife, very mild-mannered, very loving woman, but her man needs sleep, and she protects me. I'm so grateful for her. And so she went up and down on this pharmacist. This poor lady. And finally, the pharmacist relented and filled the prescription. Now, to Robin's credit, she apologized 4 times over to the woman. She said, I'm really sorry, but this is now happening. This is like the 3rd time this has happened. But imagine if you weren't persistent. Imagine if you're just sick and you're tired and you can't deal with that anymore. Would you walk away from the counter without the medication that you needed? Would you stand up for yourself? And that's really what I wanted to talk about today. Was the system is insane. Like, not only do the doctors obviously not know the rules, but the pharmacists can now regulate whether or not they fill it because of a comment section on the prescription that's sent in. Like, they have the power to do that. Wouldn't it be required that they call the doctor and get an explanation or something? Or so It may sound like I'm complaining about all this, and I'm not, because we Robin and I are very conscious about how we approach people and how we deal with people. That's what we do every day. But my heart went out to people that just, they don't have any idea. Like, if you had no idea about your body, if you had no awareness of your body, you wouldn't be able to tell the doctor, look, you've got to drop the dosage on that Keppra because it's draining the life force out of you. You would have no idea. It would just drain the life force out of you. And that's remarkable to me. And something needs to change. And that's why I'm going to be doing these videos, because I want to report what I'm seeing as I go along. There's other things that happen in the hospital that I'm going to make a different report on that were shocking to me. I couldn't believe it. And if we treat our most vulnerable this way, what does that say about society? It makes me sad. It breaks my heart. And so, as a part of my covenant, I'm using my experience to just inform people. I don't know if it'll help or not. I don't. But me telling you this to be aware of what's going on in your body, to report out loud, to challenge if you need to. And I hope that making these videos will help you empower yourself, whether you're sick or not, whether it's medical or not. No matter what the issue is, empower yourself to ask questions. We're designed to ask questions. The worst thing you can do is take the expert's word for it, because science, no matter what the past 3 years has said, by the way, evolves. It changes. It has to have many approaches in order to challenge its veracity, to challenge its truth. You have to look at all sides in order to challenge the truth of something. And even then, science is 99.9% significant, right? It's never perfect. And for some reason, somehow, we've gotten into this bureaucratic mess of, I know what's best. Well, I'm going to challenge that to the day I die. And I'm hoping that's not too soon, by the way. But God will only be the one to show me that. So that's a little bit about pharmaceuticals today. I'm not being negative. I feel better right now than I've ever felt in my life. I have the most peace in my life right now. Very little pain. I'm so grateful for that. And I've been able to really regulate the medications I'm on and the dosage I'm on because I spoke up. All right? So even if you don't know anything about it, if you're taking medication, go on Wikipedia. Look at all the side effects. I remember I was working at a clinic for many years, Upledger Institute, where I learned craniosacral therapy. And we had a intensive program in the back where we would do 1 and 2 week intensives where people would come in, multi-therapists would work on the person. And we would have these rhythms of people. Like for 3 weeks, it would be like autistic kids. For a month, it would be people with Parkinson's. For another month, it would be people with Alzheimer's. For another month, and it wasn't set up that way. It just happened that way. And so I became really obsessed with looking at all the pharmaceuticals people were on, and I would go up and use Dr. Upledger's hardbound physician desk reference, and I would look up all the side effects. And I remember during the Parkinson series, it wasn't a series, it was just a lot of people with Parkinson, were coming in and they were taking this drug called Cinnaminson. Now, Cinnaminson was supposed, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Cinnaminson was supposed to stop the tremors from Parkinson patients. But in reading it, one of the side effects was causes tremors. And it was amazing to me. So here's my 2 cents of advice, and you can take it or leave it. Look up the drugs, look up the pharmaceuticals you're taking. See how they affect you. Ask your doctor, if you're taking multiple, how do these work together? What's the chemical compounds in these? How do they work together, and how are they affecting my XYZ, whatever it is? Ask questions. Protect yourself. Protect your loved ones. Maybe you have loved ones that are sick and they need your help. Protect them. That's what we're here to do. We're here to protect each other. We're here to love each other. We're here to make this world a better place. I hope this helps. I'm going to keep making these throughout this whole journey. And I got to tell you, man, this is a weird one. This is the weirdest thing I've ever been through, but it's the most fantastic thing. I finally, after 56 years, know there is a benevolent God, and know that He loves me, and know that He has a plan for us. He has a plan for us to reunite. He has a plan for us to end this division, to end these senseless wars and senseless infighting and senseless political BS. It's all so senseless. It really is. None of it means anything. Here's the one thing that means something. Never, ever, ever miss the opportunity to tell somebody you love them and hug them. Okay? I love you. Thanks for watching. If you're bored, sorry. If you're not bored, fantastic. I hope you utilize this information and you go look up your pharmaceuticals. Go on Wikipedia. They're all on there. It tells you everything that you need to see. Go look it up. Do the research. Find out how something is affecting you. Some of the symptoms you may be facing that they're giving you more drugs to fix may be because of the original drug. Look it up. All right? Do yourself a favor. I love you so much. Thank you for spending time with me. And again, thank you so much for your gifts. I can't tell you how much it means to my family and I to get this kind of support. It means so much. Thank you. And I wish you an abundance of grace, of peace, of love, of joy, everything goodbye.